candidate for Commonwealth's attorney, Henrico. There's a primary there. There's primaries on June 9th all over the place. This is one of the hot primaries out there. Tony Pham's been on our show before. He's joining us, and he's got an interesting story to tell. His parents coming from Vietnam, they were one of the last people to get out. Hey, Tony, great to have you.
John, good morning. Hope you had a great weekend. Thank you so much for having me on the show on a Monday morning.
Now, tell me about your family.
You know, you mentioned it. You're right about the concerned veterans of America. Without our veterans, you wouldn't be on the radio show, and in fact, this young man wouldn't be here in America today. Just yesterday, April 19th, my family and I, we got together, we remembered and celebrated 40 years of our beginning journey, fleeing Vietnam as refugees and coming to the United States. So April 19th, 1975, 40 years later, this young man's on the radio show talking about how he's a candidate for public office. God bless this country.
Now, Tony, tell the story again how your family really got out on the final helicopter, right?
No, that's not actually that's not accurate. We had kindness in people at the U.S. Embassy on April 19th. That last helicopter went out at the tail end of April 30th. We were one of the few fortunate ones that were actually blessed to be air-vac'd out on one of only 3 planes that left on April 19th. So we were fortunate enough to be out of the country 11 days before it actually fell.
Wow. So and then your family resettled, right?
Yeah. We spent some time in Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, the refugee camp there before Henrico. We were relocated to Henrico County, and that's where our American journey began. And John, that's quite frankly why I'm running. I just remember the days of the kindness of the community members in Henrico when we were hungry, we didn't have any food. They brought us food. They made sure we had clothes to make sure the children were prepared. And I never forgotten those acts of kindness. And I'm ready to come back and give back to Henrico County by serving them.
Now, Tony, walk us through your family's immigration process, your legal immigration process. How did that work?
Well, when we were here in 1975, we received amnesty because we were refugees from a war. But I took English as a second language courses along with my sisters to help my parents learn how to read and learn English. Lo and behold, 10 years later in 1985, they took the naturalization test and they passed. And it was a blessing because, our efforts in helping my folks learn English, because they were 30 and 34 years respectively, learning a new culture, learning a new language, it was difficult. And when they became citizens, we became citizens. But we waited 10 years during that process before we were finally able to say America's our home.
Your family and your parents went through the thing the way legality it was set up. You did what you had to do in order to become citizens, and I'm sure when that day came, it was a great day for your family, right?
Yeah, we followed the rules.
So what do you think about Obama's legal amnesty?
My personal feelings on that is, for me, it's a slap in my face as a naturalized citizen here. It sort of offends the notion of having rules to begin with and having a process and a procedure that folks, can follow. I'm a rules-oriented kind of fellow anyway, just because I'm a lawyer. There are laws that are set, there's procedures in court that are followed, and it lends itself to having some consistency so people know what to expect and the process to go through. I'm not going to make a comment on the president himself. I just think the actions of providing amnesty just offends the notion of thousands of other immigrants who came here legally and just waited their turn to gain their citizenship in this great nation.
So we have this problem, Tony, of 8, 9, 10 million illegals here in the United States. How they got here, we can spend 5 days talking about. The fact is, they're in the country now, right?
Yes.
And there's a lot of us that are out there like me that are very concerned that this effort to legalize them quickly through first driver's license, Social Security numbers, work permits, is going to lead to voting illegally and things like that. How do we solve this problem? I mean, when you take your family that you've said on our show now 2 times, you felt so fortunate to be able to immigrate to the United States and go through the system. How do we solve this?
John, there is no easy solution, but I think we need to select a candidate, especially a conservative Republican candidate, that respects the rule of law. And quite frankly, it's one of the courses and the programs that I participate in as a lawyer locally here in Henrico and Richmond, in the Richmond, Virginia area. I believe in the rule of law so much that I participate, teach, I speak at these, and coordinate at these events. So that way we can work towards teaching our younger generation the value of our Constitution and the value of the separation of the three branches of government. But the solution is going to be a tough one. Quite honestly, we as a community, we're going to have to decide on a candidate that respects that rule of law and will follow it.
Tony, what separates your candidacy out from some of the other candidates?
First and foremost, I have a proven record of actually having done the job that I'm applying for. The 16 years in the practice of law, close to 8 of those years has actually been as a Commonwealth attorney on the front lines in the city of Richmond, where I cut my teeth. I prosecuted, held cases together, got them to court at all local levels. I've prosecuted at the U.S. Attorney's Office as a special assistant U.S. attorney handling firearms and narcotics trafficking cases. Mm-hmm. And the additional difference is I've actually managed an entire office before. And that's what you're going to need in your Commonwealth attorney, someone that can just walk in from day one without skipping a beat, understanding the nuances of what it means to be a prosecutor, what it means to defend the Constitution, but also what it means to deal with budgeting issues and scheduling issues and training issues that come with being a manager. And that is one of the biggest differences between me and the other two candidates is I've done it. And I'm looking forward to serving the members and the community of Henrico County by being their Commonwealth attorney.
How would you be, what changes would you make or what would be different in your tenure as Commonwealth's attorney in Henrico County than how the office has been run?
I think there's some nuanced differences that will occur. I think that we're going to be rebuilding the level of communication that used to exist before with the law enforcement partners, but then also creating that link into the community where we bring folks in the community in hand with law enforcement, so that way we can be more effective and begin to build bridges of trust between the community and the policing. It's not lost on us, or it shouldn't be lost on us, that there is a level of distrust between the community and law enforcement. When we have one of the best police departments in the nation in Henrico County Police, but as you can tell just by the media coverage around the country, that there's some skepticism out there. And I want to be proactive. I want to be that connection. I want to be that leader, the tip of the spear, as you call it, mm-hmm. that will bring the community in and work with police so that way we can continue building lines of communication so we don't have issues later on down the road.
When you say there's some skepticism out there, Tony, Pham, define that.
Well, what I mean is just the coverage that we've had and the news coverage of the shootings that are occurring. My sense is that bad apples shouldn't judge the entire department, but the coverage that we have that occurs when there is a police shooting, we need strong leaders. We need vocal leaders. We need people who have built-in community relationships and built-in community credibility, who can walk in and start dialogue with our folks, so that way we can avoid situations like what happened in St. Louis or what happened in New York.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Tony, your first run here at elective office, what do you really like and what do you really hate?
I love getting out there, knocking on doors, meeting voters, talking to voters about issues, reminding them, the spirit of America is that democracy has it that we're able to exercise our voice by voting. What I dislike about campaigning as a first-time candidate is just the fundraising aspect, right. Asking for money so that way you could get your message across to a broader audience.
Asking for money, always the tough thing. And now in politics, it's becoming more and more expensive to run. There's Senate races in this state that the combined money spent is going to be upwards of $2.5 million for a state Senate race. Kind of mind-boggling, isn't it?
It's just a straight wow. It's
just a straight wow. And couple that with Hillary Clinton says that her campaign is going to spend $2 billion.
Oh, my word, yeah.
$2 billion to get elected president. It's just unbelievable. And for anybody out there from my generation, that's just a scary thought. I tell this story all the time. I remember sitting down with breakfast for former HUD Secretary, former Congressman Jack Kemp. He also ran for vice president in 96 against Dole. Was 93 or something. And I said, are you going to run for president? And he said, if I can find a way to raise $30 million, I will. This was after he got beat in 88. And now you look at $30 million. I mean, that can't even fund a seat for U.S. Congress. $30 million back in 93. Thanks, man. Hey, Tony, if people want more information, where do they go?
www.tonyhpham.com, or if you're on Facebook, you can follow me at Pham for Henrico, Commonwealth's attorney.